Assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to another episode of What's Up Doc. I'm your host, Dr. Aalia Al-Barwani, and I'm a board-certified family physician. My show, What's Up Doc, is a production of Muslim Network TV, the only Muslim-focused network broadcasting in North America. You can watch Muslim Network TV on Roku TV, Fire TV, Apple TV, and Galaxy 19 satellite. You can also watch our episodes and shows streaming live almost every day on our website at muslimnetwork.tv and on our YouTube page at youtube.com/Muslim Network TV. Today we have an exciting and very important show. I know I say this all the time, but I find that all my shows are super exciting and very interesting. I hope you do as well. With the new year, a lot of us are making resolutions and making commitments, and some of those commitments are regarding our weight and weight loss. That's one of the most common resolutions that I hear. Joining us in that discussion is Dr. Mubarakah Ibrahim. Mubarakah Ibrahim is an internationally known health and fitness expert and Muslim American businesswoman. She has appeared everywhere from the Oprah Winfrey Show to the White House iftar dinners. She received her interdisciplinary bachelor's degree in exercise science, public health, and psychology from Southern Connecticut State University. And throughout her 20-year career in health and fitness, she has received 13 fitness and nutrition certifications. In addition to being an oasis in the Overwhelm Master Trainer, a professionally recognized stress management coach certification and training program. Mubarakah is an international speaker in which she lectures, promotes, and conducts workshops on health, fitness, business, social media marketing, and women in Islam. She's a published author, writer, and poet, and lives in New Haven, Connecticut with her husband. Welcome to our show, Mubarakah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate the welcome and the extra kudos. I am not a doctor.
I know. I was going to say, I gave you some added credentials. I mean, mashallah, your credentials are important and amazing enough. And I just wanted to give you some more. Force of habit. We tend to have a lot of that. We've been having a lot of doctors, but we diversify. We've had other specialties as well. So welcome, because you are such an expert in your field. And I feel like nobody knows weight loss as well as you do. And so I'm excited for today's episode because there are a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of misconceptions about how to lose weight. And with all these marketing gimmicks that are being thrown at consumers, as far as Atkins diet and paleo diet, keto diets, there are so many. In preparation for this show, I was just like, I know a few. And I was like, let's see what other diets are out there. And there were at least 30. And I just couldn't believe it. I was like, that's a lot. That's a lot. And that I feel also brings up a lot of confusion in people's minds as to like where to start when it comes to weight loss. So I think this is a really important episode to have, especially with this obesity epidemic we're seeing in this country and around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that a lot of diets, the attempt of diets, so to give them a little bit of credit, is I think that people try to find practical ways for people to apply the science of nutrition. And sometimes it resonates with people and sometimes it doesn't. And then sometimes it's just kind of like it's a whole bunch of people talking at once and people get so confused by it. But I always tell people one of the things that you have to do is just, most people know the basics of what they need to eat and how they need to move. Do one thing that you know is going to improve your health and just be consistent with it. Right? So the saying that we often say is an apple a day keeps the doctor away. It's not about the apple. It's about consistency, because eating 7 apples on Sunday does not do the same thing as eating 1 apple each day of the week.
Absolutely. And it goes along with what we always hear about everything in moderation. And so you want to be moderate in your approach to weight loss as well. And that includes being consistent rather than binging 1 day a week on healthful foods, right? I want to share a story that I recently heard at work. And it was I was speaking with my nurse, and she shared the story of how she had a patient she was caring for in the hospital who had come in for dizziness and dehydration. And she had a lot of stomach ache as well. And she was a teenager, I think maybe 16 years old. And she went to the bathroom, and the nurse went in to help her because she was kind of weak. And she saw, not to get into too many details, but there were worms all over in the bathroom. Yes. And come to find out, her mom had been feeding her pills that contained worms, the eggs for worms, which then, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know how much you've heard about this, but I've heard this quite a bit as a joke, never as someone who actually took tapeworms to lose weight. And this little girl was being fed, was being, you know, asked to lose weight by ingesting tapeworms. And my mind was kind of blown because I'd never taken care of a patient who had that or heard about that actually happening, except as a joke in passing, right? Like, yeah, I need to get on a diet and let me find some tapeworms. But, you know, so that got me thinking about some of the craziest stories about weight loss that you might have heard that you might want to share a quick story with us, because I feel like we go to extreme measures sometimes, especially when we have that wedding.
Heard so many interesting stories about not just weight loss, but people trying to detox and all of the different ways in which people do it. And this is one of the reasons why I am such a science person, right? Is that my goal is to take the science, the stuff that we know, the things that we can improve, and show people how to apply it on a practical level, as opposed to just following something that some blogger said or an influencer said. So one of the, I think, the strangest things that I've heard is it actually is quite a popular detox. It is a detox in which you take lemon juice, maple syrup, and cayenne pepper, and you like drink it for 7 days or something. The interesting thing is that many people, because it became popular on the internet, and I'm assuming like some blogger did it and then everybody started doing it, people made up all of these reasons of why this is a detox, not knowing the actual history of it. The history of this particular, so it does have a history that spans back about 30 years. It was actually developed by the Heaven's Gate cult. And the leader of this cult told his followers to make this combination because it would purify their body so that when the aliens came to abduct them and take them back into the space, their bodies would be pure.
Wow. Wow.
That's the source of this detox that has been making its way all over the internet. And people have been saying, oh yeah, I'm doing the cayenne pepper and maple syrup detox. And they have no idea there's absolutely no science behind it. They're literally getting their bodies ready for alien abduction.
That is crazy to know that history behind it. I mean, I really, it makes me wonder how much people know about the things that they're jumping headfirst into, which goes back to something that I had talked about with a previous guest about verifying sources. When you read things on Facebook, on Instagram, it's not a bad thing to get information that way, but don't take it as gospel and don't take it as the truth. You know, do a little bit of background research. Ask someone who is a certified and, you know, credentialed person who should know or would know about it. Ask your doctor, ask your nutritionist, ask your dietitian, you know, when it comes to something related to eating. But don't just take that and say, you know what, I've got all of those things in my pantry. Let me go ahead and do that, because you could be hurting yourself for sure.
Absolutely. My advice to people is eat according to your health status and your goal. So one of the things that I say that people think is pretty strange is I tell people there is no such thing as a universal healthy food, because everyone has their own health problems, their own genetics. So for example, putting honey in your tea can be really healthy for you because honey has additional nutrients and minerals. It can actually be healthy for some people, but for somebody that has diabetes, honey can can literally send them into a diabetic coma.
Mm-hmm.
Tomatoes are great, healthy food, but if you have acid reflux, you should probably not be eating a bunch of tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no universal healthy food. And so when you look online and you're finding recipes and you're finding different things, you really have to consider your own personal health and what your own personal goals are. So in addition to verifying the information that you get, it's really important that people follow people that actually have knowledge in the area in which they're talking about, and not just because they have 1 million followers, right? Because this is the realm of social media that we're in. It's like, oh, this person has 500,000 followers, they must be good, but they may have 500,000 followers just because they're pretty, right?
Absolutely. Or they paid for it.
We have, so I call them the Insta trainers, right? All of these people on Instagram who say that they're health coaches, who say that they're personal trainers, but it's really generally from their own personal experience. And it's not really from a point of being educated or even sometimes certified as a trainer or a health coach, and they create programs and people follow it because they look really good in leggings.
Absolutely. Exactly. Oh, I love the way you put that. You know, verify, verify, verify. Whatever you're looking into, if it's health and fitness, you want to make sure you're following someone who's credentialed in that and not just somebody who, as you said, looks good in leggings. So let's talk about some of the more common fad diets that we hear about, because I think that it's important for us to understand what they are, or, you know, what are they actually selling, and how it could or could not be beneficial to an individual, as far as like what's the background science behind that, because we want to talk about the science. So let's start with keto diet, because I've noticed that's a popular one. For a period of time, I was having quite a number of patients come in on it. And the way I would discover they were on that diet is they didn't tell me they were on it, but I would get their blood work. And they would come in to get their blood work reviewed, and they had high cholesterol. And I would say, hey, you know, my usual spiel about high cholesterol, I don't usually jump to medications first unless they're dangerously high levels or they have comorbidities, like they're also diabetic or hypertensive. So I'll start to talk to them about things they can do to lower their cholesterol. And then they'll say, well, you know what? I just started the keto diet last month or a few weeks ago, et cetera. And so I was noticing that trend with keto diet. So let's start with that and how it affects our body and our balance.
So I'm going to be transparent from the start. I actually follow a keto diet. So hopefully I will be able to talk about it in a non-biased way, but I can't make any promises.
Have you had your cholesterol checked recently?
I have, and my cholesterol is wonderful. I actually shared my entire metabolic panel on my Facebook page, and my kids were like, "Mommy, you're doing too much."
Talk about oversharing, Mubarakah. I'm just kidding. All right, tell us.
My kids say, I was like, yeah, but it's verification, you know?
I know. Sometimes you have to see it in black and white to be able to, for people to actually follow and believe that what you're saying is true, because we can make that kind of stuff up just to back up claims that people are making online. So that's fair.
So one of the things that I always caution people with keto and with every other diet is oftentimes people will see a new diet. And this again goes with following people on social media and not really verifying, right? People don't want to actually pay for a coach, so they just want to follow a bunch of posts and look up some YouTube videos, and not understanding the proper way to actually apply the diet or apply the program, whether it's keto or any other type of diet, right? And so one of the things about a ketogenic diet is that it is really easy for people to misapply the diet, because some people join it because they're like, hey, I can eat bacon and steak every day and I'm good, right? Because they really like bacon and steak. But that's not how, that is what I guess there's a social media term called dirty keto, right? Dirty keto is you're eating the hot dogs, the processed meat, you're eating all of these things that technically you could eat, but technically you should not be eating. So well-formulated keto diet actually has a lot of research, and we're having more and more research around it. This year is actually the 100-year anniversary since the development of the keto diet. It was literally developed in 1921 by doctors at the Mayo Clinic. And originally, it was actually developed to treat seizures in prescription-resistant children. That was the original purpose of it. Okay. So in around 1919, I believe, 2 Parisian doctors were treating children who were prescription resistant by having them to go on a 30-day water fast, which was quite extreme, right? But when he reported it to the medical community, his report was that I'm literally able to cure 80% of these children by having them only drink water for 30 days. And so the doctors at the Mayo Clinic, they were like, well, obviously we can't tell people not to eat, right? That's going to be really hard. So what is it about fasting in particular that actually causes the brain to benefit from it? And what they discovered was fasting put the person in a state of ketosis. And when the body was actually functioning off of ketones, it was beneficial for the brain. And so the doctors at the Mayo Clinic, they knew that reducing carbohydrates and eliminating carbohydrates would put a person in a state of ketosis. And that is actually where the keto diet started. Okay. Now, since then, it has been researched for its benefit for Alzheimer's, dementia, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, Angelman syndrome, improvement of autism. Obviously, weight loss is actually just a side to it. It's also been shown as being in a state of ketosis. We have this really popular research study that everybody from the New York Times to Forbes magazine did an article on about how fasting for 3 days can actually completely reset your immune system. It doesn't just reset your immune system because you're going without food or you're significantly decreasing food. It resets your immune system because you are actually putting your body in the state of ketosis for those 3 days. And so that is really kind of like the general idea of being a keto diet, is to actually put yourself inside of the state of a ketosis.
Got it. Okay. And I love that you gave us the background, the science behind it, because I'd read the same thing about the original benefit that it was intended for, but then we see this other side effect that people, it might have been an unintentional weight loss at the time, but now we're taking that, we're like, okay, we want to intentionally recreate that, right? So I want us to talk about what is ketosis, and as well as what are some foods that are included in keto diet. But before that, we do have to take a short break. So we'll talk about that when we come back. You're watching What's Up, Doc, on Muslim Network TV, and we'll be back after this short break.
My wife, she's a professor at the University of Cincinnati, who's Catholic, and by her watching and listening to our 3-year-old son watch Adam's World, she ended up taking Kalima Shahada. She embraced Islam because she learned so much about Islam and the other prophets. It really affected our life in a great way, and because of Sound Vision and Adam's World, we're Muslims.
I took my Shahada 15 years ago, and I actually am from a rural part of Ohio. And so I found the catalog for Sound Vision, and I ordered the tapes and the CDs and the books, and I used those, and especially for my little daughter, that's how we basically learned our Islam, and Islam entered our hearts through the wonderful works of Sound Vision.
Okay, assalamu alaikum, brother. I just want you to know that I love the Sound Vision website, that a lot of times when I'm looking for information, especially as it relates to homelessness, domestic violence, and women issues, I go to that website, and then I see what you've written, and then I copy and paste it and spread the word, because the wisdom is there. So I can't do any better than what Sound Vision has already done.
Sound Vision is our survival guide. It is the organization that provides skills for Muslims how to survive and thrive in this community here in the US.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Anam, I'm in 11th grade, and I grew up with Adam's World, and what it taught me was unity, respect, and love for the Muslim Ummah.
Adam's World is the greatest show ever made. Take me to the Kaaba, man. I love that puppet.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to What's Up Doc. I'm your host, Dr. Aalia Al-Barwani, and before the break, we were talking about fad diets and weight loss, and we're joined today by Mubarakah Ibrahim, and we were discussing keto diets and the history behind the keto diet. Keto, as we know, or we're talking about before the break, is short for ketogenesis, and you were about to, or going to explain to us what that is, because as you mentioned, that this diet puts us into a ketogenic state. So what does that mean, Mubarakah? Let's talk about that a minute.
So a ketogenic state is when your body uses ketones instead of glucose. The metaphor that I like to use is it's sort of like the energy in which your body is running on goes on two different mechanisms. Most people use glucose sort of like how most houses have electricity, right? We get electricity from the electrical lines. And most people get their energy source from the carbohydrates that they're eating, be it rice, bread, fruit, even vegetables have carbs, beans, nuts, all of those things have some carbs in it, some more than others. And it is the glucose that is the electricity, right? And when you cut off the electrical lines, people have generators. And when there's no electricity, the generator automatically kicks on and does all of the things that electricity would do. Well, we have that same mechanism in our body.
That's a great analogy, Mubarakah.
When we run on glucose, right, we're eating carbohydrates, but when you stop the glucose, then your body switches to ketones. It says, okay, I don't have carbohydrates to run on, but I can convert fat into ketones and use that for energy. And that is being in a state of ketosis. It's when you don't give your body glucose or carbohydrates to run on, and instead you give it its alternate food, which is fat.
Excellent Excellent explanation. I have never heard it explained that way, and I love that. I love that. I'm going to borrow that. I'm definitely going to use that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you shared with us at the beginning, you said that you observe a ketogenic diet.
Mhm.
And you mentioned also that it's not all about steaks and hot dogs. So
Mhm.
what do you eat? Can you give us an example of what you would eat throughout the day to keep in ketosis?
Yes. So there's a couple of things that I'm just going to precursor this on. We talked about a ketogenic diet used for medical purposes, right? For controlling seizures, for dementia, Alzheimer's. We also now there is growing research around a ketogenic diet actually shrinking cancer tumors. Well, there's two types of ketogenic diet. A really, really strict diet whose goal is medical purposes is much stricter than if your goal is just weight loss or health, right? So for medical purposes, you would definitely stay 5%, and many of the research has been 0 carbs, right? All of your food is coming from protein and fat, right? So a medical ketosis diet has as much as 90%. The research has done 90% fat. Obviously, that's probably not going to be a really sustainable or even a diet that you're going to like.
Yeah.
But you have to do it if your choice was having cancer or eating 90% fat.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely.
But for a nutritional ketosis diet whose goal is for weight loss or general health, you actually want to decrease the fat, your fat range. So the scientific or the research-based definition of a ketogenic diet is one that is 60% or more fat and 30% or less carbohydrates. What you have as your individual carb tolerance, what we call it, meaning do you want 5% of your diet from carbs or 10% or 20%? It's all depending on your particular health level. So you would actually test your ketones. So when I follow a ketogenic diet, what I did to lose weight was much stricter than what I do on a regular basis, right? So when I was trying to lose weight on a ketogenic diet, I had to cut out all fruit. I didn't eat any fruit for like a year. But now that I'm doing it more for health reasons, then I allow myself berries. So one of the things so an average day for me is, for breakfast, I might have some scrambled eggs and avocados, right? And inside of those eggs, I'll put in some mushrooms and some spinach and onions and tomatoes, and it'll be like a scramble. I'm really horrible at making omelets, so the whole putting it inside, I don't do that. I just scramble it up.
Omelets are my favorite. Okay, but fine, scramble.
Yeah. Or you can make an omelet if you're good at that. I'm never good at that.
Okay, sounds good. So a scramble and avocados, that's
Right.
nice and healthy. Okay,
Yeah,
nice
and
balance there.
And I don't snack a lot, but if I do have a snack, maybe midday, or not midday, because I actually also incorporate intermittent fasting. So I generally eat my first meal around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then midday, if I want to have a snack, I'll have some pecans or about an ounce or 2 of cheddar cheese. Sometimes there's a brand called Lily's Chocolate, and I'll throw little pieces of 70% chocolate in there. I could have celery and hummus. I will have some cucumbers, a salad, anything like that. And in the evening, I pretty much have any protein, animal-based protein generally. So I try to do non-animal based protein at least twice a week. But most days I'm having chicken or salmon or steak or shrimp, something like that. And then just with a vegetable on the side, some type of dark leafy cooked greens. I think that for a ketogenic lifestyle in particular, and for everybody, that everybody should eat lots and lots of dark leafy greens like collards and kale and mustard greens greens,
Yeah.
broccoli. Those are some of my personal favorites.
I definitely endorse the dark leafy green vegetables. And I find that a lot of, I see a lot of kids these days, and I talk to them about their eating habits because unfortunately obesity is on the rise, as I mentioned earlier. And a lot of them just look at me like, what? I'm talking with the parents, and it's unfortunately not something that a lot of families are having. And so I totally endorse that, for the fiber, for the nutrients, for the vitamins, so many benefits, antioxidant. There's so many benefits of eating dark leafy vegetables. And so I completely agree with you there. Okay. So you have a wide variety of foods that you're having in your day. And so, as you said, it's not just hot dogs and steaks. It's not just focusing on animal-based proteins. And there is a balance where you are having vegetables, maybe not as many fruits. Although that I think we will differ on that, but it doesn't matter because I don't, that's your diet and that's what's good for you. So I want to talk about, you mentioned intermittent fasting, and I know that there are similar benefits when it comes to ketosis, ketogenic diet. There's some overlap, and there's some benefits in intermittent fasting as well. So introduce us to what that term means so that our audience has an understanding of what we're talking about.
So intermittent fasting is when you intentionally go 12 or more hours without eating, and then you restrict your eating window into a particular amount of time. You will, if people look it up online, you will also see this interchange with the term time restricted eating, or TRE. They both mean the exact same thing, intermittent fasting and time restricted eating. And it's based on research about how our body functions differently when we go at least 12 hours without eating anything, and when we restrict our eating into a particular eating window. So the difference between, I would say, the philosophical difference between say ketogenic diet or any other type of diet and intermittent fasting is a type of eating program focuses on what you eat. Intermittent fasting focuses on when you eat. And much of the research is showing that intermittent fasting, when you eat, can be even more important than what you eat. I am not advocating a junk food diet.
Yeah, that doesn't mean for the hours you are able to eat.
Right.
Again, steak and hot dog.
But we do know that when you do intermittent fasting, even if you don't make the healthiest choice when you do eat, you can still ward off many of the ill effects and avoid diseases like diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease just by restricting the time of day you eat. It's really interesting, the development of science, to me, and I can understand how people can sometimes get really confused, because for years we were telling people, no, you have to eat every 3 to 4 hours. You should be grazing. You should be eating 3 meals and 2 snacks. But come to find out that actually is not the way, the optimal way to eat for health. Right? Our body constantly, I think, this is just totally my personal opinion. I think that is part of the reason why we have such a obesity epidemic and a metabolic syndrome epidemic. Like, when you are constantly eating and grazing throughout the day, you're constantly sending your insulin level up, and then you develop insulin resistance, not just because of the types of food that you've been eating, but how often your insulin has to kick in throughout the day. 10 years, 20 years, 30 years of doing that, then you develop insulin resistance, and that is when you develop diabetes. And then women have problems with PCOS and all of these other metabolic diseases. And a part of it is because not just what we eat, but how much we eat, right? So in addition to the idea that we should eat 3 meals and 2 snacks a day, that doesn't even include the fact that because people are so used to eating every 3 to 4 hours, then they're eating a midnight snack because they don't go to bed till 1 o'clock. And that goes to sleep. That's a whole different.
Yeah.
show,
We
right?
can talk about this all day, to be honest. I don't think that one episode is enough to really talk about everything that I had intended to today. But I love a lot of things about what you just said, including when you define intermittent fasting, that is an intentional act. Because I know a lot of people who say, well, I only eat one meal a day, but they don't mean to do that. And so it's the fact that they just didn't have time, or the various reasons why they weren't able to eat regularly or to eat properly throughout the day. And so, as you mentioned, it's a specific way of time restricting, and being intentional about it. I want to talk definitely a lot more about that. But before we do have to take a quick break here. You're watching What's Up, Doc on Muslim Network TV, and we'll be back after this short break.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Adam. You remember me? I appeared in so many episodes that Sound Vision has put on the market. No matter what. Hey, what's happening? Hey, oh, sorry. Lockdown is what it is. Well, continuing here. In this lockdown, Sound Vision never stops thinking about you, the viewer. We'll have to get back into production again, online and inline. Everybody in their own space, even me. Although I'm stuck with Lanisa.
Salam! Salam! Salam!
I know, you were shocked too. Well, let me continue. This is what I was going to say. Salam! 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 Cut! Finally, I get my own screen time again. Thank God. And so we invested in new equipment to bring you even better production with new songs and new singers and animations. Well, here are a few clips. And Sound Vision has brought all this into your home, making Islamic values and teachings easy. And if you know me, Adam, a multi-talented actor, well, sometimes I'm an actor and the reporter and the... Oh, that's enough. Let's move on to the next section. Well, you can watch these new episodes on our new app at www.adamsworldapp.com. We have previews happening every day on Muslim Network TV. Sound Vision has been serving generations, moving and changing with the times. We are all faithfully connected. That is a huge blessing. Your donation helps keep these programs available now and into the future. We take this job of helping tomorrow's Muslims today seriously, and you should too. Today, we need your help. children absorb and learn from everything they encounter. Make that wholesome, positive, grounded in our faith. Together, we can accomplish our goal of raising better Muslims, better neighbors, and better citizens. Please donate generously. It's an investment in our future. To finish, let me tell you, there are new scripts of my new mission. And it is something that I enjoy talking about. My new mission is space. Houston, we do not have a problem. Salam, see you soon.
Welcome back to What's Up, Doc. I'm your host, Dr. Aalia Al-Barwani. Today we are talking about weight loss and different ways to achieve that. Joining us in that discussion is Mubarakah Ibrahim. Mubarakah, I keep wanting to call you doctor, but we know we've already talked about this before. You're just such an expert. I know. Well, you're just such an expert, mashallah. And I love all of this information that you're sharing with us today. It's, not just the information itself, but the background, the science behind it, as you mentioned. So I'm really appreciating this discussion. Before the break, we were talking about intermittent fasting, and we were talking about what that means, and again, tying it to that ketogenesis and how that helps our bodies. I want to tie this into fasting, the fasting that we, as many, billions of Muslims around the world, practice on a sometimes regular basis throughout the year, but specifically during Ramadan when we are fasting for 30 days. And I know that there's a lot of benefit there that comes not just spiritually, but also physically in our bodies and our health, and how it ties into intermittent fasting. So let's talk about that, because I think that science behind that is just fascinating.
What I love about the fact that we have, as Muslims, been fasting, for 1,500 or more years, right? Allah tells us in the Quran that he prescribed fasting for us as he has prescribed it before for those before us. Mm-hmm. And so fasting is something that is thousands and thousands of years old. Mm-hmm. I remember going to a particular conference that was specifically around intermittent fasting and ketogenic eating, and I heard researcher after researcher, these are people who are actively doing the research about intermittent fasting, talking about how their fasting piqued their interest because of their Muslim patients. And many of the research studies that are actually done around fasting are actually done on Muslims, because we are the only population that they can say, okay, they are going to fast for 30 days.
We know they're going to stick to it, right?
We know they're going to stick to it.
No
so when you look at a lot of the research, it's actually done on Muslim populations. Wow. Because it is we're great research subjects. Yes, right? Fasting and particularly dry fasting, which is what it's called. So there's two types of research, and when they talk about fasting, they talk about dry fasting and wet fasting. Dry fasting is what we do Islamically, no water, no anything. Mm-hmm. Intermittent fasting is often what's called wet fasting, which means while you're fasting, you're allowed to drink water, you're allowed allowed to drink green tea and you're allowed to drink black coffee, no cream, no sugar in any of those things, right? And the reason why you have no cream and no sugar is the goal of fasting for health benefits. The goal is actually to get you into ketosis. So when you're fasting, if you take in things that is going to raise your blood sugar, you are going to prevent yourself from getting in ketosis. So you can't fast and say, I'm going to drink juice all day, but I'm fasting, right? That's actually not an intermittent fast. An intermittent fast, the goal is to keep your insulin level mitigated. When it comes to fasting in Islam, we go completely without any food or drink, so it's considered a dry fast. The interesting thing that I always find, I call it the science of the sunnah. That is the things that have been already prescribed in the sunnah, that science is now beginning to talk about the physical benefits of those things. So we know the spiritual benefits of fasting. Now science is telling us these are also the physical benefits of fasting. When we look at types of fast from a research base, right? One of the most practical, as they say in the intermittent fasting terms, that people can do besides the daily intermittent fast, is fasting twice a week on non-consecutive days. And we know
fasting is not the intermittent fasting, but actually the spiritual fasting that you're saying, right? So intermittent fasting, but then you have our Muslim spiritual fast, which is the dry fasting,
right?
Correct?
So when we look at the frequency of fast, it actually correlates in the research. When they look at the frequency of fast and the benefits from its frequency, it correlates with what we have been already told inside of the sunnah. So the Monday, Thursday fast, which is a sunnah, right? There is an entire book and movement called the 5-2 movement, right? Some researcher wrote this groundbreaking book.
Yes.
Called 5-2. It's literally that exact same protocol.
Isn't that crazy? Yes.
On non-consecutive days.
Yes. It's really funny because just like you said, as Muslims, we know this as part of our sunnah, and we sometimes don't even put a lot of value in it, I guess. I've found that a lot of people don't practice it, but then they read a book about someone showing us the science, and suddenly something that was already, like you said, prescribed to us, right?
I'm guilty. I have to say, I tell people all the time that is constantly my guilt, is that, I knew fasting. I've been fasting since I was 7 years old, but I did not incorporate it intentionally throughout the year as an adult until I actually read the science of it.
Isn't that crazy?
They are like, give me both benefits.
I mean, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. So we've been focusing majority of our discussion on the eating part and the diet part of losing weight. And I love it because I think it's very important information. And for some people where exercise is not possible for various health reasons, I think being able to address the way that you eat and how we eat and the time, as we've learned, that we eat, that's very important. Let's talk about exercise a little bit for those who are able to, because I find that for a lot of people who are doing all of these things, and when I, today for what we're talking about, and I hope you agree with me, Mubarakah, these are not things that I'm encouraging people to do for a short period of time to get to a certain weight goal. It's great if you are able to do that, but I believe that we're talking about healthy eating lifestyle, something that we recommend beyond getting to your weight loss goal, correct?
Yes. So I encourage everybody to whatever program or eating style that you feel is beneficial for your health, you need to look at it as a health benefit, not just about a weight loss benefit, right? Yeah. What are the specific things that you're trying to achieve health-wise, not just kind of like, I'm going to do this so that I can lose weight and I can get back to eating my ice cream at 11 o'clock at night. Not a good plan.
Where are these examples coming from, Mubarakah? I'm getting suspicious.
Years of helping women change their lifestyle. I've heard it all.
I'm sure you have. I'm like, hot dogs and steaks, eating ice cream at 11 at night? These are too specific. Okay. All right.
But to your point about exercise, I think that what I'd like listeners to know is that if you do have the ability to exercise, it is actually the preferred way to kickstart your healthy lifestyle. And this may be different than what people are used to hearing. We all want to start with a diet, right? Because, you know, food is sexy, food is delicious. We all want to start with changing our food. But when you talk about creating a healthy lifestyle, exercise or intentional movement, I'm going to say intentional movement because I don't want people to think that they need to go and join a class and sweat all day or for 2-3 hours, right? We're talking about incorporating intentional movement into your life is actually what we call a snowball habit. When they do research around, and how they research this is that they have people to just commit to doing 30 minutes of walking 3 or 4 days a week. And then they monitor other habits in which they have, like even smoking, how many vegetables that they're eating, how much water that they're drinking, what their diet is like. And they find that when people start incorporating movement into their life, they automatically start improving other areas of health in their life, right? So one research study actually looked at people, giving them a walking protocol who were smokers. Mm-hmm. And by the end of the study, the people, even without telling them, they were smoking less cigarettes or got off of smoking cigarettes completely just because they started to walk. Same thing that they looked at in how much vegetables people were eating. Mm-hmm. When they started to move, it automatically made them want to improve other areas of their life. So basically, when you start walking, you're more likely to eat more vegetables, but eating vegetables doesn't make you want to get up and go for a walk.
Got it. You know, it makes me wonder if the act of being intentionally active, right, or having this, if that just has health, you know, health on their mind a little bit more, so they're a little bit more health conscious. I wonder, because for me personally, that does happen, right? If I don't have enough time to go and exercise, I notice that there's a drop in other things as well, and I'm not thinking about my health as much. But when I am able to exercise regularly, I have my health on my mind, and I tend to eat better as well. That's just how it is for me. And it just makes me wonder if that's what's happening with other people as well.
My assumption is that it's a combination of that and also the physiological changes that happens when you exercise, right? So we know that exercise makes you feel better. If you're going to feel better about yourself, have more confidence, it's also going to help you decrease the amount of stress. Many people stress eat, right? And so all of those differences that it's making in your brain and in your body, it makes it easier for you to adopt those other habits.
Absolutely. Now, we did not do exercise justice in this episode. We are totally running out of time, but I want to share your fitness plan, your MR40 method. I'm going to mess it up. I'm going to let you say it. But you have a program that you're encouraging people to join to help with weight loss. Let's talk a little bit about that and kind of an overview of what it involves for our viewers.
So the MR40 method is my 40-day challenge to women to eat to balance their hormones, reduce belly fat. It is the Burn Belly Fat Challenge. And throughout the challenge, you get a full menu and meal plan. You get workout videos. You join a community of amazing women who are all on the same journey. We have a Facebook page. We have a WhatsApp page, because part of losing weight is also you need support. All right. So there's a lot of aspects. There's the nutrition aspect, there's the exercise aspect, but there's also the support aspect, right? Knowing that you can ask people for advice, that you can celebrate together, that you can really support each other through your challenges, because sometimes it is a big lifestyle change. So I think that that's kind of like the most important part of the process that we go through. But of course, you also get me as a coach. So you get to ask questions. We sometimes do live workouts, all kind of things like that. So it is MR40 method. It is a 40-day challenge that you will kickstart a healthy lifestyle in 40 days, but it is indeed a lifestyle.
Absolutely. And what an invaluable resource to have access to, Mubarakah. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. We did not get to half of the things I intended to talk about, but that is fine, because I think that we were able to cover quite a bit of important information, a lot of the basics. And who knows, if there's enough interest, we might be able to do a second part and talk a little bit more, because I think this topic is such an important one for us to get our nation and to get the world healthy. So thank you again, Mubarakah. We really appreciate you, and we wish you every success in your career.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here. And of course, we didn't talk about all of the important things, but I hope people were able to gain value from what we were able to share today.
Yes, inshallah. Thank you for joining us on another episode of What's Up, Dog. I hope you benefited from this episode today. You can watch this and all our other episodes on our website at muslimnetwork.tv and on our YouTube page. I'm your host, Dr. Aalia Al-Barwani, and I'll see you next time on another episode of What's Up, Doc.